Okay, next up, question 10. It says, find the first three non-zero terms of the Maclaurin series for each function and its interval of convergence. Okay, so first off, from question 9, we saw that sine of x is equal to x minus x cubed over 3 factorial plus x to the 5th over 5 factorial minus x to the 7th over 7 factorial, and so on. And this series converges to sine of x for all x. Okay, and then from this series, for sine, we derived this series below for cosine, and we just found that by differentiating the sine series term by term, right? And we got that cosine of x is equal to 1 minus x squared over 2 factorial plus x to the 4th over 4 factorial minus x to the 6th over 6 factorial, and so on. And this series converges to cosine of x for all x. All right, so for part A, the idea here is to use the sine series for sine of 2x, but I'm just going to replace x with 2x, okay? And then likewise for the cosine of 3x, I'm going to use this cosine series and just replace x with 3x. And then what I'm going to do is combine those resulting series, all right? So here's what this looks like. Okay, so for sine of 2x in green, I'm taking the series for sine that I have up above, and I'm replacing x with 2x, okay? So instead of starting with an x, I have 2x here, then minus 2x cubed over 3 factorial plus 2x to the 5th over 5 factorial, and so on. All right, and then likewise for the cosine of 3x, okay, just replace x with 3x in this series for cosine. So that gives us 1 minus 3x squared over 2 factorial plus 3x to the 4th over 4 factorial, and so on. All right, so now what I'm going to do is combine these series, and I'm going to write the resulting series in increasing order according to degree. Okay, so we start here with our constant term that comes from the red series, that's a 1. And then the linear term that comes from the green series, that's 2x. Then the quadratic term that comes from red, that's minus 9 halves x squared. Then the cubic term that comes from green, that's minus 8x cubed over 6. Now 8 sixths is 4 thirds, so I have negative 4 thirds x cubed, and so on and so forth. Okay, now the question says find the first three non-zero terms. So in fact, we could just stop right here up to the quadratic term, but I've just included some of these others to illustrate how this is working. All right, so there's our first three non-zero terms. And now as far as the interval of convergence is concerned, well, since the series for sine, right, converges to the sine of x for all x, and the series for cosine converges to cosine of x for all x, these two series down here, the green series for sine of 2x and the red series for the cosine of 3x, these converge to these two functions respectively for all x. And so then when I combine, okay, this series converges to this function for all x as well. So our interval of convergence is just the entire real line, right? From negative infinity to infinity. All right, very good. So let's check out part B next. Now here, note that for B, it's sine squared of 3x. Now one approach is to take the series for sine and square it, okay, where you're gonna have to expand out that square doing some algebra. Okay, now I'd rather not do that, so a way to work around having to square that series is to make use of this half angle identity. Okay, so recall that sine squared of theta is equal to 1 minus cosine of 2 theta over 2. And so sine squared of 3x, that's going to be 1 minus cosine of twice 3x, which is 6x, and then we're dividing all that by 2. And then here I'm just going to break this up as a half minus 1/2 of cosine 6x. All right, now what I'm going to do is trade in the cosine of 6x for this corresponding series, where I'm just using the cosine series and I'm going to replace x with 6x. So we do that here. So here in red I have 1 minus 6x squared over 2 factorial plus 6x to the 4th over 4 factorial, and so on. All right, now I do want to distribute this negative 1/2, but before I do that, let's go ahead and clean up this series in red. So I have a 1, and then here I have a 36x squared over 2. So that's a 18x squared. Here I have 6 to the 4th power over 4 factorial. That simplifies to 54. Then here I have 6 to the 6th power over 6 factorial. That simplifies to 324 divided by 5. Okay, so here is the series in simplified form. Okay, and now let's go ahead and distribute that negative 1/2. So I'm going to get a negative 1/2, then a plus 9x squared, then a minus 27x to the 4th, then a plus 162 over 5, x to the 6th, so on and so forth. And here, these two leading halves, these are going to drop out. And so I'm looking here at the first 3 non-zero terms of the Maclaurin series for this function sine squared of 3x. And as far as the interval of convergence is concerned, okay, just like part A, since this series in red converges to cosine of 6x for all x, okay, performing these operations below, right, these will not change or affect the convergence. And so this resulting series then in turn converges to sine squared of 3x for all x. So our interval of convergence is the entire real line, right, from negative infinity to infinity. Cool. All right, that's a good place to stop. I'll see you in the next video.